Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. Time for another albums that should have been. This is I've been having a lot of fun with this. This is a relatively new series. This would be the third one that we will do. But the whole premise of this series is we create here on this channel an album that should have been released. It can be, created from tracks that were recorded within a certain time period by an artist and maybe intended for release, but then they weren't, and the tracks were farmed out to other records. Or it could be a double album that should have been boiled down to a much tighter single album. Yeah, I mean, there's different permutations of this thing, but the idea is this was not a record that was actually released. It's not a record that is in existence, but should have been. Okay. And again, it's got to be made from tracks that were all sort of recorded, within the same time period that would have been put on a record. And we do adhere to, the restrictions of the format. If it's, from the CD era, then, something that would fit on a CD. If it's from the earlier period where it was just vinyl, it's got to fit within the time constraints of an actual vinyl record. And so we want this to be realistic in that sense. So go check out the other ones we did. The first one we boiled down Springsteen's "Lucky Town" and "Human Touch" into one much tighter single album that I think even Springsteen would have appreciated more. And then the last one we did was a lot of fun. We took the Grateful Dead, or we took Jerry Garcia's solo album Garcia and Bob Weir's solo album Ace, and then created what I think actually should have been like the next Grateful Dead album instead of those two solo projects. But that was fun too. But today we're going to take a look at the Rolling Stones' Aftermath. Now we did do a Rolling Stones week recently, obviously because of with Hackney Diamonds when that came out. We go watch all that if you haven't seen it. But we did a review of Hackney Diamonds, and then did kind of a whole week of ranking the Stones albums and just talking Stones all week. And this is one that's always kind of bothered me because if you saw my rankings, I had Aftermath, which many consider to be the one of their great records. I mean, I didn't have it too low. I'm not ridiculous, but I didn't have it as high as a lot of people would have it because while I really do appreciate Aftermath, I mean, after all, it probably is the high point of those sort of early to mid '60s period. Before they really kind of start going. Before the whole Becker's Banquet and Beyond era. It's probably the high point. It's the first Rolling Stones record, either the UK or the US versions, where it's all original material. There's no cover songs for the first time ever. And so, it is great. But I have always found it to be flawed. And I've always felt that it could have been one of the essential records of the entire 1960s. I think some of the other Stones records are, Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, all that. But I think this could have been with just a few tweaks. So that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do in this episode. We're gonna make, I don't know, we're gonna call this New Aftermath. So this is the New Aftermath, where we're gonna kind of tweak this and rearrange it, take a few tunes off, add a few tunes that were recorded within this time period of when they were recording songs for this. Again, to make it realistic, to where I think we can make a new Aftermath that would have been one of the essential records of the whole decade of the 60s, rivaling anything of the Beatles or anything else, or at least close. Anyway. All right. So, like I said, take this is the US version I have here, but take the UK, the US version. They are both, essential great as they are. But there's always been one huge flaw, at least in my mind, and that is the 11 and a half minute closer, Going Home, which to me is just, it just stops the momentum dead in the tracks. 11 and a half minutes. There's not a whole lot that goes on in that song. Definitely not enough to warrant 11 and a half minutes. Just seems filler, but unnecessary filler because they had the material at the time to not need any filler to make a brilliant genius album. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to take Going Home off of here. All right. And actually, I'm going to take a couple other songs, off, and we're going to make the perfect new Aftermath. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to adhere fairly closely to the UK track listing, but strategically insert some of the essential tracks that were just on the US version, plus a single, a B-side, and an outtake from that same time period of when they were recording all these other songs that ended up on Aftermath, and put those on here too, and arrange it, and that will be the perfect new Aftermath. So, as usual, let me scoot over here to give the editor some room so we can see the track listing here of our new Aftermath. So side one, and again, we have to stay within the time parameters of what would have fit on an actual side of vinyl, okay, for each side. So side one, we're going to open with, what was the opener? Yeah. We're going to open with the opener that was on the US version of Aftermath, Paint It Black, one of the great singles of the entire 1960s. Paint It Black. The second song, in the 2 slot, we're going to put the opener that was on the UK version, Mother's Little Helper, another great, great Stone single. So imagine here, Paint It Black, Mother's Little Helper. Big, 1-2 punch. Be awesome. Then we're going to stick with some tunes that were on both versions. So in the 3 slot, we'll keep Stupid Girl there. In the 4 slot, we'll keep the beautiful Baroque Lady Jane. And then in the 5 slot, another one of the great Stone singles from the 60s, Under My Thumb. Then 6th, we're going to go to what was the B-side of a single that was released around the same time period. This B-side was Sad Day. So I'm going to put Sad Day here at number 6. At number 7, we're going to stick a song that was recorded around this time period but didn't show up until later on the mid-1970s comp Metamorphosis. And that song is Some Things Just Stick in Your Mind. So that'll be on the 7th slot. And then we'll wrap up side 1 in the 8th slot with Flight 505 that was on both versions of Aftermath. So there you have a side 1. All right. Moving on to side 2, we're going to open with a banger. And this was a single that was released as a single. I mentioned that Sad Day was the B-side. This is the A-side to that single. That's 19th Nervous Breakdown, another classic Stone single. We're going to open side 2 of New Aftermath with 19th Nervous Breakdown. Because this was recorded and released as a single right in the middle of the time period of these sessions when they were recording stuff for Aftermath. So this would work. This would work. Then in the 2 slot, we'll keep High and Dry. Then in the 3 slot, we will have Out of Time, which was just on the UK version. And then in the 4 slot, It's Not Easy, which was on both. In the 5 slot, another beautiful kind of delicate tune here, I Am Waiting, which was on both versions. And then we're going to finish up in the 6th and 7th slot with 2 songs that were just on the UK version. In 6th slot, Think, and in the 7th slot, What to Do. All right. So there you go. This is the new Aftermath. Now, to make room for this, of course, we took off the 11.5-minute Going Home. And then we also took off what I think were 2 minor songs that were on Aftermath, Don't You Bother Me and Take It or Leave It. Okay? This fits. I think this is the perfect new Aftermath. Well, what do you guys think? What would you do if you're reordering, rearranging Aftermath? How would you make it, or would you not touch it? Do you prefer the UK, the US? Let's talk Aftermath or any sort of possible fictional Aftermaths that we could make. What do you guys think of mine? Let's talk about it in the comments. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, like the videos, all that great stuff. And we'll see you next time on Amity Tracks.